I think, frankly, we are all very fortunate to live in the presence of I think the best hospital care in the nation in the Boston area. I know there are some fiscal issues associated with Stewart, but nevertheless, the hospital care itself has got to be just world class, and we're very fortunate to live here. Part of any hospital system, though, involves the management of vast amounts of information regarding medical facilities. And today we're going to hear from Jane Kent from the University of Michigan, a medical program on this subject. Now, I mentioned the University of Michigan with some trepidation because I'm a Buckeye, and Jane and I, we always have this conversation. But Jane, I'm really delighted to have you speak to us today. And I want to also say this is something of a kind of a reunion in a way. Jane's family is online. Some of the people who know the family and particularly knew Jim are online today. And I just want to say, from the point of view of the Jenks Center and its evolution, this family has had a major role in that process. So we're doubly delighted to have all of you with us today. And Jane, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay, thanks. I'll have to bear with my technological
Oh, we got it.
limitations. All right. So, uh, anyway, I just to give you, thank you for the introduction. That was very nice. I have to figure out one more thing on the screen. I'm sorry. All right. I'm with the University of Michigan. I'm going to be talking about the documentation and space division of the Facilities Planning and Development Department with Michigan Medicine today. Our roles are very much a support role for the greater good of the Michigan Medicine facility and family. All right, here we go. So just to give you a little background on who we are, Michigan Medicine is a teaching hospital, and it's part of a larger triumvirate, which is comprised of the University of Michigan, the University of Michigan Medical School, and Michigan Medicine. Michigan Medicine has facilities across all of Michigan, and it continues to grow. You can see on the map here the extent of our coverage. These dots are showing all the locations of our hospitals and our clinics. And if you look at this area right here in the purple circle, that's showing the area that our facility is responsible for. Our facility group is responsible for 6.4 million square feet of owned space located in 39 buildings and 1.2 million square feet of lease space, which is located in 45 buildings, all within that circle. The facilities documentation and space is the main group that my position falls under. And we are a small 4-person group that we're responsible for the CAD master document management. This involves updating a series of plans we have as changes are made in the field, as well as ensuring that they are available to staff and consultants who reference them. We're responsible for the management of our drawing archives. This database is comprised of PDFs of all the as-built drawings for our facilities from the time that they were first constructed, along with all the construction documentation. Going hand in hand with this, our role in the project closeout process is to catalog new construction documentation as it is submitted, to ensure the files are complete and accessible to meet the future needs of our staff and our clients moving forward. The annual space survey is a large undertaking done each year in collaboration with a medical school. The information collected is used for government reporting, analytics, and facilities management. The Office of Cost Reimbursement uses this data to support the indirect costs proposal, which is how the university negotiates a reimbursement rate with the federal government to cover the facility and administration costs of doing research. The Michigan Geographic Imaging System, known as MGIS, uses layers from our key plans to define rooms as well as to associate the information collected in the space survey, the end product being an interactive mapping system. Our department is also responsible for the web applications that make our data accessible to our staff and to our clients. A large portion of my responsibilities are related to the updating of the CAD master documentation. These documents provide staff a quick visual to what is in the field. These documents are used during our Joint Commission evaluations, which involve external examiners evaluating how well the hospital facilities that are directly related to the patient care are meeting their obligations. The three main avenues for our information to get to our team are through the project closeout documentation process, the space survey analysis, and our discrepancy report forms. As we process the closeout documentation, we look for changes that may impact our standards drawings. If found, we generate a task to make the needed alterations. As we field check areas and review the space surveys done by others, we follow the same protocols of creating tasks. The discrepancy reports that are submitted automatically generate a task. Once received, we investigate and verify the information, then make the necessary changes. Our clients, I know I brought that up a couple of times. Who are they? Our clients are the engineers who work in our department. They use our CAD standards and drawings and search our archives for as-built drawings that give them further details for specific areas prior to their field checking those areas. We also work with the architects who use the files similarly to the engineers, but they're also looking for scans to be done prior to a project design work, so they can use that scan as a tool in their meetings with consultants. Our designers use our archives to review the plans and figure out the needs of spaces. They match the colors of materials, or they create new palettes from their standards libraries to match what is existing in the field. Our maintenance staff uses the CAD standards for quick references. The maintenance are key to maintaining our files. So as they find things that don't match, they let us know and we can make those corrections. We use a lot of consultants through our department, and they also use these standards as a quick reference. They will request searches of our archives because they do not have direct access to these files. They are secure files. And our clinical staff are mostly impacted by the department's wayfinding program. In addition to all the signing managed throughout that program, all of our buildings are posted with life safety plans, which show the safe egress routes in case of an emergency. And those life safety plans are part of our standards plan package. You can get to almost all of our information through our webpage. This is the Facilities and Operation webpage that is maintained by our department. Like most web pages, ours has links to multiple locations to get you where you want to go. Most of my work is associated with the buildings. This is a pre-recorded little film that I did, so bear with me as I try and track what I was trying to get across here, but you can request access to areas that you may or may not have access to. A lot of our information is restricted. You can report a discrepancy. You can request access to the drawing archives, as consultants often do. We also list all the facility managers and their contact information. You can get a link to the MGIS, which is that geographic systems, and you can request a Matterport 3D scan, which is a pretty good program we have here. When looking for buildings, you can just either type in the building number if you happen to know it, or type in the building name. Search down until you find the specific building that you are looking for. And on this top level, you can just click on the PDF. This will bring you to our key plan, which is the basis of all of our other plans. It's the plan that shows the room outlines, the building outlines. If you look a little closer at the plan, you can see these little blue dots. They're actually little camera icons, and they are hyperlinks that will take you to a Matterport scan. So if you wanted to see a scan of this particular room, you click on that hyperlink. It takes you into the form, which is stored at Matterport. It gives you the information about that scan. You go to the space area, click on the area, and that will take you right into the scan. And I'll show you some of those a little later in the presentation. So I mentioned Matterport, and the question may be, why Matterport? First, I should address the question of what is Matterport. And it is a company that has combined its development of specialized cameras with computerized compilation of the data collected to create a digital twin of a physical space. With these space data capturing techniques and the data that they collect, we can then take measurements from, add digital tags to, and link asset information to the models or digital twins. Currently, we only use a few of the tools available. Many are through add-in services. Matterport is geared towards residential sales, but over the years, as they have improved upon their technology, they have expanded into facilities management, architecture, engineering, and construction company services, as well as the insurance industry. This is all the equipment that's needed to use the Matterport program. And for our department, this is the extent of what we have. It all fits neatly into a small rolling carrier the size of a milk crate, which makes it very portable. We can accomplish in minutes what used to take hours and usually several trips back to a site to get. The Pro 2 camera, which is this larger camera here, takes 30 seconds to rotate 180 degrees with 6 location stops. The speed will vary a bit depending on the density of the point cloud that you want to create. But overall, it's a very quick scan. And this uses a laser technology. It's very good for inside shots, not so good for exterior scans, since the sunlight can play around with its locators. This is our other camera. It's about half the size of, actually, it's probably about a third the size of the Pro 2. So this is the Leica. This camera is great for outdoor technology. It uses LiDAR technology, and the benefit of this is that the smaller size, you can take scans that are 30 feet apart, whereas with the Pro 2, each location of that camera needs to be between 5 and 10 feet apart. Where the Pro 2 has 30 seconds to run its circuit of scans, the Leica takes 3 minutes for each point location for a scan. So if you have a problem stitching each location together, you're going to lose a lot more time with the Leica than you will with a Pro 2. Pros and cons of each. Both of these cameras are managed through the iPad. So you can control when the filming starts. All the resident information is stored on the iPad, and then that gets uploaded later into the Matterport program. Our scan library is a recent development. When we first started using the cameras in 2018, we're not sure how we would integrate it into our program. The process scans are all stored with Matterport, which is a managed site. We're the administrators for our collection of scans. Since there were not a lot of scans, we could easily go and check the rooms if they had a scan. And we created a labeling system that started with the building number, followed by the building floor, and then followed by the room number. If there were multiple rooms, then they're listed in the details section of that scan. We realized that this could have many applications to our organization and increased our scanning list. It now became apparent to us that finding the scans or finding the rooms that were scanned was becoming more difficult. This advanced the creation of the hyperlinks. Those are those little blue cameras that I mentioned earlier in our key plans. The link takes you to a single scan. We began taking more progression scans, working with construction services. So for areas that are difficult to access, such as a specialized OR, we could get each phase of the construction of that space, from bare wall to piping to lead lining, all the way to the finished product. In this way, if changes are made during construction, the as-built drawings could be compared to the scans in case something needed fixing or equipment needed to be added in the future. This past year, we developed our scan directory library, which allows users to search a single room and see what scans are done, the type of scans, and when it was taken, along with other specifics related to that scan. We've received a lot of positive feedback, and we're now looking at how we can meld this library with information to our standards. To give you an idea of what you might see in one of our scans and why we take them, this scan was taken in response to a discrepancy report. The report indicated that a field condition of these two rooms did not match the key plans. From this small scan, we can compare our data on the field plans, on the key plans, and make the alignment corrections necessary. Here you can also see some of the features we use. The room numbers are Matterport tags. That's right here and here, and these were added after the model was processed. This is a larger scale scan that we have done. It's a good example of some of the larger areas that we do scan, and one that gives the technology a run for its money. Because there's so much repetition of this space and spaces like this, the camera and the program have difficulty stitching each filming location together properly. The program relies on unique shapes and patterns that are created as the filming progresses through a space. When an area is devoid of these unique areas, we hang visual alignment tags. These come in sets of 200 unique QR codes that we affix to objects. These tags then create those unique shapes that the program requires in order to stitch all the different camera positions together. So this is an example of an end product that we've been just starting to use for a lot of our projects and for summaries. So while design teams rely heavily on Revit, which is a design program to create their conception of a space, Matterport's a great tool to show the end product. Here we have a presentation of a large design project that reimagined the patient experience to the entrance of our cancer center. As with most projects, a lot of people are involved with sections of a project, but they rarely see the end product. This fly-through provides that experience for staff as well as donors, and is one of the features of our Matterport system that really gives that wow factor when you finish the project. And here it's showing all the different design areas, the different materials that the designers use. Addresses a whole list of needs that were addressed early on in the design process for this particular space. I'm going to show you another location. This particular model was taken with the Pro 2, that larger camera, so each space location is about 5 to 10 feet apart. This next video I'm going to show you is of a butterfly garden. This is an exterior scan. This was done with the Leica camera, and is a good example of that. The exterior garden is to the Women and Children's Hospital. This was recently renovated with donor funds. And this project is in its completion. It provides a lovely interactive play area for families to decompress and provide an area of exploration and learning to distract, if only temporarily, the reason that they are at this hospital. Using the features of the Matterport camera, we can provide a short experience of the space to staff and donors. This also is, as you look at this, another challenge for this technology is reflective surfaces and windows. So as you can see, there are a lot of windows and a lot of reflective surfaces in here. So there's things you can do, you can manipulate while you're in the program to let the camera know that it's a wall of windows and address some of those issues while you're doing the scanning. This scan was requested for a presentation to be given to donors that will be coming up shortly. So this is a very new scan that was recently taken. You can see some of the features. There's face blurring, so you can't see who the people are. And all right. So looking to the future, as we're looking at ways to connect all the information available with other divisions within our organization, we're looking for better ways to provide the services that we do. Our building monitor systems are managed by our application team. This group is responsible for monitoring the critical equipment for the hospital systems. Sensors are located throughout the system. If a specific limit is breached, warning messages are sent back to the central monitoring station. Adjustments can be made to that system if feasible. If not, work orders can be initiated. The facility's maintenance uses Maximo, a building management program, to track the equipment locations and manage the work orders and critical information on the equipment. Our group continues to look at ways to align with these programs and to figure out effective ways to collaborate to everyone's benefit. While we continue to look at ways to improve our own efficiencies, we are also investigating where we can intersect and create greater efficiencies within our greater group. What tools do each of us have that may be applied to our partner group? Currently, work is being done to better connect the building monitoring system and the building management system. We are investigating how Matterport may be able to be integrated with some of the features of Maximo, and I hope to find other areas of collaboration in the future. All of this must be done in a secure environment to protect that data and everyone and everything associated with that data. And that's it.
Oh, great, Jane. Thank you so much. This seems it seems that Matterport is something of a kind of a design, a computational design, inspection, maintenance tool. Is that a safe evaluation, or is it something other than that?
It's really designed more for the real estate business to sell property.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they've been building on their technologies, and recently they've put out a building management tool that you can sign into. I have not really explored that much just because we use Maximo for our building management systems.
yeah. Well, the reason I asked this question, and this ties back into Jenks. Right now, there's a strategic planning committee of which I'm a member that is looking at the future of the Jenks Center in terms of the physical plan, and it's largely a space allocation issue. We have a certain amount of space. We're pretty confident we're not using all of it as efficiently as we could. And so or need to. And so the question is there a way of space planning so that we maximize the capacity, the room capacity, space capacity we have now in such a way that it can accommodate all of the things that are of interest to the, intellectual and social and, physical activities that are typical of the Jenks Center. So I'm just wondering whether Matterport is, if you were to go into the Jenks Center today with Matterport, could you look at the issues of space allocation, or am I
Um,
overestimating what it can do?
no, you could if you went in with a Matterport system, and the one thing that's nice about Matterport too is they've expanded. You could go in and get a scan with an iPad
Right.
as you go around, um, and you could through an ad in have them create a model with 1% efficiency or accuracy to what is physically there,
Yeah.
and send that to you either in a CAD format or a Revit format. And there's a series of other design formats that we don't work with, so I'm not familiar with, but they can download all of that to you, and then you can work within that. So Revit would probably be the best program to be working in because it's a 3D design program that's really user friendly, and the design teams use that all the time. Architects, it's one
Yeah.
is one of the favorite programs of architects from
Well,
what they tell me.
that's what really triggered the thought, because we're
Hmm.
the strategic planning committee has reached out to some architectural firms to help us.
Hmm.
And nobody's mentioned Matterport, but it just struck me as I listened to what you described that it could be a very valuable tool for us.
Hmm.
And, the GEMS has actually grown dramatically over the last few years. After COVID, the number of people using the Jenks Center has increased dramatically. And a lot of it involves physical activity. One of the typical activities these days is pickleball, which is
Oh, yeah.
which has gotten to be very popular nationwide. And the problem is, in order to accommodate pickleball year-round, it has to be done indoors.
Hmm.
So what it means is that there's a space allocation issue and actually a sound issue as well, because it can get very loud. So I'm just thinking that what you've described may be a perfect match for some of the things we need to look at and evaluate.
Hmm.
And I wasn't aware of Matterport until I read your description of the presentation.
Hmm.
So that could be very helpful to us. We may want to get in touch with you.
I can't say enough good about Matterport. We really did start this off just as an experiment and seeing what could be done with it. And it just keeps growing, and it keeps getting better. They were recently purchased, so we'll see if it continues. I'm
Yeah,
hoping it does by a larger design firm that is eluding my memory right now. But the customer service with the company is phenomenal. 24/7, they're always there. They're always ready to help you out, help you fix a program,
right.
teach you something about it that you may or may not know.
Well,
So,
let me ask you a question specific to the University of Michigan system.
mhm.
Uh, if someone were to come to your offices and say, we have a new medical technology we think needs to be incorporated into the University of Michigan medical program, and we need space for it. How would you help them? And you've got, and this with the presumption that you're not going to build new space, you're going to reallocate space.
Yeah, there's an entire committee that works on space, and that's part of what our space survey does. So we look at how space is being used in those areas. As people move, we have a list of what space is available, which in general is next to none.
That's- yeah.
Yeah. And then
Typical,
as,
right?
yeah, so if you have like a research, for an example, there's a research group that says, we just got this huge grant. We're going to be working on this project. We're going to hire this many staff. We need
Right.
this many offices, and we're in this building and would like to stay in this building. That goes to that committee. The committee reviews it, looks at what's there. Can things be moved? Is space actually being used the way that it was designated to be used?
Right.
And then they do their magic.
Yeah.
And they say, you asked for 5 offices, we can give you 2. You asked to expand this room, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so they do a pretty intensive evaluation, and this is from the very highest levels of the hospital that are looking
Yeah.
at this.
I see a hand. Albert, go ahead.
I have some detailed questions. Do you have Rappaport in-house operating it, or do you have a reader version of it?
We basically pay Matterport. All the scans are all the processed models are all stored with Matterport. We have resident copies of just the field scans that we keep with us, but we also manage our library. So it's kind of like having a storage unit with the company, and all of our stuff goes there. So if somebody wants access to any of our scans, they come through us. We will give them access, either making them a collaborator, or we will make the scan available through a passcode that then they can access. So does that...
The reason I ask is I have diagrams, kind of like what you showed us in the beginning.
Mhm.
This is a huge plant, and I have a very small picture of it, not picture, but diagram in PDF. And when I try to blow it up to read the legend, then the resolution is lost. And every time I ask them to send me something I can read, they don't do it because the program is not accessible, etc. Only they have it. Is there a solution to that? There must be a reader that would allow me, without paying for Rappaport or these big engineering design models, to be able to zoom and then see a small section and be able to read the legend. Any ideas on that?
No, not off the top of my head.
I mean,
without having, if the problem with the PDFs, if you don't have that original CAD documentation that created it,
yeah.
It depends on the resolution of the scan. So you can blow. It's like when you take a picture and send it to somebody, they ask you what resolution you want. So if you do the smallest resolution, the more you blow it up, you just get the pixels get so separated that you can't see it. So I'm sure that there are programs out there that can kind of put stuff together, but not that I'm aware of. So I'm sorry.
That's quite right. I presume you probably had the same problem before Mapaport, but maybe you weren't at Michigan then.
Well, we have the files that we get CAD files, and I kind of skimmed over our whole web presence, but so we do have CAD files that are stored. So if we really need to get in, we'll do the CAD. We'll look at the CADs. The earliest plans that we have, they are scans, and some of them are just non-readable. You blow them up, and it is what it is. You can't read them. You can't do anything about it, unfortunately.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
These are CAD scans for what in particular, Jane?
Well, we have like all of our floor plans are done in CAD. So
Okay.
all those the documents in our like our safety plans, our HVAC plans, there's so if you go into the website and you're looking for like the chilled water diagrams. Actually, I can share again and pull that up
Yeah.
and show you. Let me just get over here.
You know, there may be a business there to take a scan of very old diagram for which you don't have a CAD version and then convert it into a CAD version.
Yeah.
I bet there probably are things that are out in the field that do that. So, but like, let me just share this again. So all of these plans here, these are all done with CAD. They're all two-dimensional plans. So if
Right.
you wanted to zoom in on them, you can zoom in on this level. You can only zoom into a certain blow up proportion. If you wanted to get closer to this, then I would just go into our CAD files and pull that up and blow up whatever section you were looking at.
Is
So
there an equivalent to that though that would show the location of furniture or pieces of equipment or whatever, and could you manipulate them computationally? In
you
other
could do
words,
that. Yeah, you can do that in Revit. That's what it's great for. Or there's a lot of programs out there, design programs. I don't work with that
yeah,
group that much.
yeah,
But when they're putting together the design work, I'm just drawing a blank. I apologize for that, but you can pull from a library that is real world information.
yeah.
So you could say, I want this specific desk and put this in here. How will that fit? You
What I
can
was
get an
thinking,
add-on for Matterport and do the same thing.
sure.
It's a little more limited, but they're working on that and they're building out that development currently. So you could have your model, and then you could start bringing furniture in and putting it in place in that model. I have not worked with that. That's not something that we've experimented with, and it is still in the development phases, but they do have a base add-on that's out there now in beta testing. So, and they're really quick. They probably beta test for a year and then it's there and it's available. So,
The reason that question occurred to me is I was just reading that sometime this week that hospitals are laying off staff. There are financial issues associated with hospital operations, and they're laying off staff. And then the question becomes, well, with a reduction in the number of staff, and yet you want to continue operating facilities, how can you better manage the availability of staff with the access to equipment? And that seems to me something like a synthesis of everything you've got. You've got the facilities, you've got the space, you've got the staff, but maybe not enough staff to operate it all. How do you manage that? And that sounds like a facilities issue of some importance. And I just thought maybe that would be tractable using Matterport or some technology that you're aware of.
yeah, I think a lot of that is addressed in their management add-in.
Uh-huh.
But facility management programs are out there that do that. So what we're focusing more on is the physical
Yeah. Yeah.
buildings, the air handlers, the pumps and all that stuff. But it sounds like you're talking more about staff using, monitors for patient care and
Exactly. Those
things
are the
like
kinds of
that.
things that are, yes.
Yeah. We don't deal with that area of management and coordination,
Yeah.
but there's definitely teams that are working on that, because you're right. Where do you store the equipment? So the time it takes to get the crash cart to get to the room is minimized, just as an example. And so they look at the layout of that floor or of that particular area and figure out where they need to be. And so I know, like in the university, there's a lot of little alcoves in most of all of our patient care areas. And in there are the mobile units that go to the different rooms for the different needs. We're looking at ways to improve other issues too, like the medical gas, getting the medical gas to where it needs to be, and making sure that we're not creating more problems with our piping system.
Yep.
So
Good. I also want to mention to Carol and to Jim that you have an opportunity to heckle the speaker if you choose. So.
No, do not give my brother that opportunity.
There you go, Jim. That's your chance publicly to do.
Although, Jim, you may want to give one of these talks in the future.
There you go. I see a couple
Jane, I'd like to say something. I'm Maureen Looney.
Oh, hi, Maureen.
Interesting that you showed the garden, because I don't think many hospitals realize how valuable they are and how much planning they actually take. I know this is a little off topic, but it means so much to patients for a place to relax, and it does help decrease pain. And also, you mentioned locations of emergency cots, and that is so valuable, because if you have to go a long distance to get your emergency cots, you're in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So if everybody knows where they are and they're in a central location, it's very, very helpful. I think this program's been really informative. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see. I see a couple of hands. Let's go to Avi.
Well, I'm on unfamiliar territory here, but I'm curious as to what the costs are when you deal with Matterport. What is it if you have some involvement with the company? How does it work, and what are the expenses?
I don't deal with the expenses, but I know we started right when they were getting out. So we have a plan where we just pay for the scans that we have. It ranges probably to about $2,000 a month at this point. We have, I think, 7,000 scan locations currently. So with a changeover to a new company, we're probably going to have to change our agreement with the company. We'll probably have to get an executive account. I don't know what the expenses are going to be with that, because again, with the change of the company, they range for how many active scans you can have at a time. We use the program differently than real estate does. Usually a real estate company may have, say, a couple hundred places that are on the market. So they would only have those scans available that would be available to the public. Larger companies may have up to 500. So there's blocks that the company has for executive packages, but I'm sorry, I do not have the cost.
Well, is there a
breakdown.
subscription requirement?
It is, yes.
So in addition to this, the $2,000 that you mentioned, there's some kind of monthly rate or annual rate?
No, currently we just pay for our plans because of how we got in. But if you get a subscription, you also each step you get more features added. So we don't have a lot of the features of the more expensive packages.
Mhm.
And again, it's always changing. So right now, all we do is we pay for the scans that are in the storage.
Okay, thanks.
So,
Good.
yep.
Tom?
Yes, many of our programs in this series have been focused on the climate crisis, and what the different things that can be done to lower carbon footprints. My past experience of being in hospitals is seeing a lot of equipment that is discarded after use rather than cleaned or reused, and a kind of, it seems in the past, a mentality of doing what's convenient rather than what's cost effective. I'm wondering, in your work, I imagine you have many opportunities to work for a lower carbon footprint, but that would be extra work on your part. That would be going out of perhaps your professional expertise as you have it at present. Is there any new priority in hospital management of lowering their huge carbon footprint?
The university is looking at is always looking at ways. We have a person on staff who is part of a team that looks at ways to reduce the carbon footprint. A program that is recently just finished was removing the medical gas lines for nitrous oxide. We have these huge gas storage tanks for medical air, medical gas, and the other gases that are piped through our hospitals. They found that the nitrous oxide, when they tested the system, it would easily leak out of the piping system that we had. And the more that they were looking at it, the less they wanted to use it. So what they did is they evaluated all the hospitals. They evaluated the use of it. The teams that worked with that gas particular were trying to reduce the use because of the environmental impacts of it. And there's now an alternative that works as well in the anesthesia mixtures that they use. So we have basically shut down all the piping system of that, and we just have the tank nitrous oxide now in smaller specific locations. And that's just one example of reducing the waste of that. Unfortunately, with the hospital system, you're dealing with infection prevention. So, we go through a lot of gloves, the needles, the tubing, all of that is disposable, one use. And that's an infection prevention need. We are constantly looking for areas where we can recycle all of that. But again, you need a company that's going to do that. I think last year they worked with a new company to address some of those waste product needs, because you think about when you get huge pallets of things that come through, they're all wrapped in that plastic wrap, and that's done universally through the shipping industry. So this company had found a use of all of that plastic. So we were able to get that into a recycling stream, just as another example of what's being done. So, but it is something that is looked at and paid attention to, and people are constantly working towards that.
Do you also work in the HVAC area, the lighting area, reducing energy use?
Yes. Yeah. So the lights have been changed out. That was a project. Actually, I was on main campus when that project was going on with the main campus buildings, but it's gone out throughout all of our buildings to read.
To LED?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about in the HVAC?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of something. We're constantly monitoring it. And I think, when you look at the building monitor system, that in of itself is will reduce the footprint, because the better the monitoring is, you can see if a pressure in a specific room is off. You can address that. If it's a constant that's going on, it may be that a seal in one of the ducts in the HVAC lines has broken, or there's a break or a kink or something, and that can be traced back. So by monitoring how efficiently the system is running, we can address some of those inefficiencies and thus lower the carbon footprint of what's being done. We also have the heat capture in our exhaust systems that recirculate that through our HVAC.
Is there any attempt to turn off heating in unused rooms or cooling in unused rooms?
In our system, we really don't have unused rooms.
It's
So that's
pretty busy.
not, yeah, that's pretty low on our priority.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
okay. Let's see, I see Vincent's hand up. Vincent.
Oh, yeah. A couple things. One is kind of just a comment. It seems to me University of Michigan has a different system than we have here. Partners Healthcare, which includes Mass General, Brigham and Women's, and others, is sort of a little similar. But ultimately, I was wondering if at any point looking forward in terms of construction, obviously there's a large campus and a lot of buildings. Has anyone kind of looked at demographics, at income profiles, about who is actually using these facilities? Because there is always this sort of push and pull between community hospitals that do deliver certain kinds of service better and larger hospitals that do sophisticated operations better. I remember Mount Auburn Hospital was stopped from doing certain heart operations because they were only doing about 8 a year, and the results are better in hospitals that do like 50 a year. On the other hand, they're still very valuable in smaller local care things. And just wondering if the demographics or income profile or the use of the system and the different locations across the state has been looked at all in terms of projecting construction needs over time.
That I know is our upper echelon evaluates that regularly, and we're in the process of building a patient tower right on the Central Hill section of the campus to deal with the demand on our system that we've not been able to meet. This will free up areas through the other hospitals that can then expand either for research or for patient care, depending on where they're located. We have built a new clinic in Ypsilanti, which is a neighboring town, and that will provide more services to that community that are currently not serviced in the existing facilities that are in Ypsilanti. We also just took over Sparrow Hospitals, which is another hospital system that is in the surrounding areas, and are working with the Sparrow team to figure out what to focus on, which locations. The services will probably stay pretty much the same, but it's just all going to fall under the Michigan Medicine umbrella. And share with the service and share with all the, the information and the expertise that the hospital system has. So it should be a good partnership.
Okay, good luck. Thanks.
Thanks.
Albert, your hand is up.
Yeah, Jane, you said that there are monitors to monitor pressure, heat. Is that connected to the Matterport program or completely separate?
No, that's all through the building monitoring system. I think there's TempTrack is used, and I can't remember the other program that they use. That's through another group that's within the Facility Planning and Development Department, larger umbrella. But we're trying to figure out ways, because they're currently looking at that TempTrack system with Maximo system, because Maximo is what's generating the work orders for the maintenance crews to go out and work on a machine. It also tracks all the history of a piece of machine or a pump or something. So if it changes a location, if it needs servicing, when it was serviced, and all that's done through that Maximo system. So I've been talking a little bit with Jamie, who manages that, to see how we can combine some of the scans that I take with Matterport to assist the mechanical crews, so they can go in beforehand and say, okay, I know that this machine is in, this one mechanical room in, say, Mott. That mechanical room is almost an entire floor of the hospital. So where is it located within that whole floor of the hospital? If you can just go into the scan and look for where that is, you might be able to locate it before having to just wander through, because the mechanical rooms tend to be really crowded and really hard to maneuver around in some buildings. So I'm hoping that we can kind of combine that visual with the Maximo information, so you have a visual and a listing sort of
Well,
combination.
that would be nice, but combining the monitors, the HVAC with the building would add a lot of value. It's not a simple one.
No, it's not, and they're working on that right now, because with the systems, there's a lot that is being looked at on how they can connect different features that the hospital administration is looking to have, tying into those ports where the information is coming from. So there are all these different sensors and different types of sensors along not only the equipment but along lines, and they're all hard connections. So
Sounds good.
that's above what I understand for the most part. These are people like you guys who are really, really smart.
All right, let's go to Gordon.
Yeah, I was curious about, and I'm not sure if you mentioned what the solution is, but there's a lot of equipment in hospitals, tons of equipment. Some of it's mobile and can be moved around. And I just wondered if there's a system that's in place that monitors or keeps track of all that inventory. And is that at all linked to the Matterport? Because it seems like you're going to have visual images of equipment in various locations. Is that something you're looking into?
Yeah, that's the program that does that is called Maximo.
Okay.
And Maximo is basically just a database. It's like a high-powered access database that lists every single piece of equipment. Each piece of equipment has a unique barcode. So that's its reference code, and that code is what tracks that piece of equipment through its life with the hospital. So if it starts out in UHB1 and then there's a huge renovation, and that pump or heat exchanger still has life in it but isn't needed there anymore, it can go over to the North Ingalls building and be put there. So you would see that change tied to that file, go from UH to North Ingalls. And you would see, it was serviced on this day, this is when it should get its next servicing, this is its end of life.
That's for the facilities equipment, but I was curious about the medical equipment.
Oh, the medical equipment? I don't know how they track that. I'm assuming it's a similar program that does the same sort of thing. So much of that is mobile on a hour, minute, daily basis that I'm not sure there would be a good tie into that with Matterport, only because Matterport's taking a picture in time.
Yeah.
So it's freezing that in time. So when you get into a mechanical room, most of that stuff doesn't move that much. But when you get into all the medical equipment that gets moved around, you've got the gas tanks that get moved, you've got the crash carts that get moved, all of that. I don't see that would be a good pairing.
And just one other question back to the energy related stuff. I'm just curious if the hospital system is putting solar panels on the roofs or looking to incorporate wind power into the whole system.
I don't know about wind power. We're not really windy here in Ann Arbor. But we definitely have solar panels and that's being implemented. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I guess Jane, the only wind is on a Saturday afternoon when there's a football game. Sorry,
There's a
I
lot of
couldn't-
hot air then.
I couldn't. Yeah, that's what I couldn't resist. Sorry. Let's go to Eddie. Eddie.
Yeah, my question might be way out of line. I'm not sure, but when you have a huge mass of data, and I don't know if you keep historical data, whether that sort of goes back into the past, could this, for example, with the heating, the movement of equipment, the daily basis of just moving and utilization of equipment, would some kind of AI system be of any help? Is anyone thinking about that, or is this something that just will not work in your kind of environment?
No, our applications lead is looking at AI for that specifically with all the monitors that are throughout the system. There's just so much information. When you go into the building monitoring, they have like this war room of screens that are constantly sending and receiving data. It's a constant stream back and forth. I don't know how many back and forth checks are done per second, but there are multiple. So they are investigating that. They're talking how there can be a lot of real value in the AI development. So.
All right, I think it's time for heckling. Oh no, you're up. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, sis.
Hey.
Hey, I'm not going to heckle you, but all this talk about your maintenance, I didn't realize all the stuff you did, and you're starting to really scare me at how smart you are doing all this stuff. I'm bummed here, but you're, if the first thought that came to my head when you said you wanted to start scanning the maintenance rooms is how could you expand on that in terms of what could you use that data for? I'm assuming all this data is up on Amazon Web Services or something, and it's tied into your other databases, and you can your war rooms and your maintenance people can access this data when they do their maintenance. And I was thinking that you might, as you're looking for new ideas, all of your HVAC equipment, all of this pumps and motors and air handlers, they've got a certain life cycle to them. And you can, that can be put in the databases of when these things are installed. And maybe you can look at minimizing downtime for ordering parts that you've got to replace. You can put them on a calendar or a schedule and say, hey, pump in room A is coming to its end of life. We better get one ordered, or better check and see if we have one in stock. And then with your Matterport scans, you can highlight, with a red, yellow, green chart or a highlight. You could say, hey, this guy's yellow, he's going to go out in 2 years. This guy's red, you better replace him pretty soon. And then you could even go further as along with your education. You could actually put the process for pulling it out and replacing it right up on your Amazon Web Services with instructions. Undo this bolt, undo this plate, undo this thing, pull the motor out, put the motor back in, tighten these screws to 27 inch-pounds, and basically give your tech all the details for putting it all back together. And then you can even go one further and automatically have your procurement people go off and buy the next one to put it back on the shelf so you have it ready for your next spot. Just a thought.
Just a thought. Yeah. Well, the first half of that, but the first half of that is what Maximo does.
Okay, cool.
So that is what that program is doing. And that's, tying into the sensing program to say something's off, generate that work order.
Mhm.
That's what they're working on right now to try and streamline that whole process. But I do like the idea of tying that in somehow to the mapping system to highlight the rooms that have, this room now has, say, 37 red maintenance issues.
Yep.
This room has, 2 red maintenance issues. This has, 6 yellow red issues. So I do like that idea.
Hey.
Good one. Thank you, Jim.
You want 10% of your bonus.
Yeah, of 0.
He's
You
gonna
got it.
He's going to send an invoice for consulting fees later today. Tom, you have the last word.
We
today.
had no contract agreement.
Go ahead, Tom.
My best friend in high school went on into artificial intelligence and became president of the National Society of it, founded a department at Columbia University for it, and he was working on a system for Commonwealth Ed to predict the failure of major portions of the power system. So maybe artificial intelligence might come in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting point. Well, thanks, Tom. Jane, I think we should probably let you get back to work. But I just want to thank Carol, your mom, and your brother Jim for joining us today. We actually started planning this, Jane. Remember, back with your dad's help.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wish you were here today to watch this. But I have this feeling that he's looking down with a huge smile on his face today.
I think he's laughing, actually.
Well, I think this is a fantastic presentation, and I think he'd be very happy to have been a part of planning it. So thank you, Jane, for joining us. Thank you, Carol and Jim, for being present today. You're always welcome to come back and join us. And thank you, everybody, for being part of this conversation today. I just want to end by wishing you a good weekend, holiday weekend, and a happy Memorial Day. Remember to celebrate somehow. It's an important holiday for us all. So thank you all. Have a good one and take care of yourselves.